Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for the Paddock Press Report. I'm Timothy Lateau. We've got a great interview coming up with Lindsay Schultz, winning trainer of the Haskell Stakes just a couple of weeks ago. Of course, we check in with her and baby Vino, seeing how he's coming along. He's got 3 wins in a row now, and one of those up-and-coming 3-year-olds. Certainly a career-defining moment for her horse and for herself. Of course, Lindsay Schultz has been a prominent trainer rising through the ranks. Now she is certainly a national name with her first ever Grade 1 win. Also the first ever woman trainer to win the Haskell Stakes as well. We talked about all that and what's next for baby Vino.
As they come to the top of the lane, Napoleon Solo trying to seal it out. The local Baby Vino 28-1, moving up on the inside. Napoleon Solo, Baby Vino head and head on the inside. It's Baby Vino, short lead. Napoleon Solo digging in. Baby Vino neck in front. Napoleon Solo trying to counter punch, but it's Baby Vino coming to the line. Jorge Vargas Jr. and Baby Vino have won the Haskell.
Well, it is such an honor to be joined by Lindsay Schultz just days after that big win in the Haskell Stakes. Lindsay, how's it going this Friday morning?
Yeah, it's good, Timothy. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been a good few days.
Sure, yeah. What's the week been like so far, just kind of on the heels of such a monumental win for your career?
It's been huge. Look, the response after has been great. There's been so many people that have reached out, former employers, colleagues, friends, family, just people you've interacted with along the way. And man, it's been really um it's been really special. Just, everyone that's kind of shared their stories and shared their support and everyone that's kind of joined in. And, we had a massive wind picture there at Monmouth, which I didn't really notice until the other day when I was looking at it. And it was great. Huge for the owners. They're both kind of newer participants, definitely to this level of racing. And it was just, yeah, really great experience.
Yeah. Baby Vino made it happen. He pulled off that upset. A lot of people, might not have seen it coming. Did you see it coming though? What kind of were you expecting out of him after that, really kind of open links win in the Pegasus Stakes to prepare for that, in the local prep?
Yeah, look, we've liked this horse every step of the way. He started working at Fairgrounds this winter, started running at Oaklawn, and look, he took 5 starts to break his maiden, but every time he learned something and he improved. He caught a lot of traffic, had to stop and make another run multiple times in a lot of his races. So we were feeling really good about this horse. He was working good in the mornings. After his maiden win in Oaklawn, shipped him up to Monmouth, kind of with this in our sights. I mean, we weren't talking about the Haskell necessarily, but we knew that if we could get him into the Pegasus and he came out of that, ran well like we thought he would, the Haskell would be a great next step. So look, like he ran a huge race, and we were, you know, you're never really that confident, even if you're 3 to 5 going into a race. So for him to show that and show what we'd been seeing in the mornings, and he got a really confident, strong ride, I thought, from George Vargas, and uh, so we were really impressed by him.
Or yeah. Talk kind of overall about his career progression and what that's been like. You mentioned, it took him a few tries to break his maiden in Oaklawn, and now he's on this, 3-race winning streak. What do you think has kind of, shifted for him or kind of improved the most, kind of just over the course of his career?
I think just time and the horse maturing and learning how to run. He's had the talent. You see that in his first start. He went 6 furlongs and went to the lead. And he's obviously, relishes the distance, but he has that natural talent and speed that he just kind of went out of the gates and ran. But he's learned how to rate in his races and kind of relax. And run when he's asked to run. Um, when he shipped up from Oakland to Monmouth, I think he had 5 or 6 weeks before his next race. And he filled out some, put on more muscle, and he's kind of developed to a stronger horse. So that's important to see. But look, he's probably still progressing and still developing. So and to be around a horse like that.
Or yeah. What was that like for you, kind of, watching in the race and realizing how, big of a shot you had that, he was, looked like he had a shot to win the race and then he was going to win the race. He had kind of really a courageous stretch run, battling Napoleon solo. What was that like for you, kind of, in the moment of the race?
Look, it was when I think when George took the spot inside of the one horse, when he kind of started to make that move on the backside to just make sure he was in a good position going into the turn, I was feeling pretty good at that point and just thought, well, look, he's putting us in a spot where we can be in contention. Um, and and then as the race progressed, he got closer and got inside of Napoleon Solo. And, you're never really sure what they're going to do when they're running head to head with another horse. But this horse has had to do that and he's had to run through traffic in his other races. So, I mean, just what a exciting experience, just thrilling stretch run. Um, I was watching him, but watching a lot of the crowd that was rooting for him, and it was pretty cool. I mean, to have he was one of the local horses there and with a local jock, and it was like all of Monmouth Park was cheering for him, so that was special for sure.
Definitely, yeah. I know, so many fans were really elated by the outcome, and it's meant a lot to a lot of fans too. With you making history as a female trainer, do you kind of read into that a lot? Does that have extra meaning to you, or does that kind of not matter as much to you?
I think it means a lot just because now it's look, yeah, I might be the first one to win the Haskell, but it's not really it's not really abnormal. It's becoming more normal for women trainers and for women winning at the highest level. So I think it just that means something and these the trainers before us, Kathleen O'Connell and Linda Rice, to name a few, they had it hard when they got into the sport, and I'm sure they've had people say, "No, I won't send her a horse because she's a woman." So now, for me and for others like me, it's not like that. You're a horse trainer and not necessarily a female horse trainer, but it means a lot that it's becoming more normal.
Or yeah. Do you think there's been some kind of shift in the industry, about that, where things have changed in the last few years or decades, or, what have you kind of felt, just being in the industry?
Look, I mean, I think the industry, like the world, is just changing. I mean, that's just kind of a sign of the times, really.
Yeah, sure, yeah. And what's it been like for your career? Kind of just a few years now into, going out on your own. What has this when, really meant to your career, getting this at such a kind of an early stage? And that's a really impressive feat.
Look, this is my fifth year of training, and it it's something you hope will happen, but you're never quite sure how far into the future it'll have to be. Um, so yeah, we've been, spending a little bit more money on horses, getting some more owners and growing to 3 strings over the summer. So a win like that, means a lot. And it shows that, our stable can develop a horse like that to win at that level.
Yeah. Would you want like any prospective owners or anything like that? What do you want them to know kind of about you as a trainer and kind of your operation?
Well, look, I think I want everyone to know that I'm gonna give their horse the best chance we can, whatever level they might be, whether they're a maiden claimer, their allowance horse, or their grade one Breeders' Cup horse. I think I just want them to know that we're gonna do our best with whatever we have and try to give you the best opportunity we can.
Yeah. Where does this win kind of, rank for you? You've had, some great, graded stakes wins to at Monmouth before and also in the Baltimore Washington international turf. Where does this win kind of, rank for you as far as the your career achievements?
Look, it's at the top of the list. It's by and far the biggest race we've won, and uh, it's yeah, look, it's a really big deal. But it's those stakes winners that we've had before, obviously, have been stepping stones to this point, and those horses. Both of our grade three winners were older horses that had kind of grown into themselves and gotten some confidence. And we've had a 2-year-old listed winner. We've had a Virginia bred stake winner. So we've done it at different levels, but this is obviously the top.
Definitely. I know. I'm sure, more to come and especially more to come with Baby Vino too. I know earlier on you had mentioned that maybe the Traverse or the Pennsylvania Derby could be in play and you'll take some time to decide. What have you kind of thought, now a few days removed, from the race as far as what future targets could be a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, both of those are on the horizon, so he's gone back to the track and he's training well, but we'll kind of get back and, breeze him 2 weeks after the race and see where we're at and try to make a target from there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, best of luck with him. We're excited to see the future and the rest of his 3-year-old season and beyond. And yeah, just really excited to see all the great things that you'll do in the sport too, Lindsay. It's a real true honor to have you on the show, and I just really appreciate your time.
Yeah, this has been great. Thanks for reaching out and look, he's a really special horse and lucky to have him.
Well, our thanks to Lindsay for her time and also some other headlines to get to as well. Just this week, Churchill Downs announced that they're aiming to sell 9 casinos, including Presque Isle Downs. CEO Bill Carstanjen recently had their shareholders call their annual meeting, and he said, quote, recent share prices don't reflect the characteristics of their properties, and instead, Churchill Downs Incorporated is now looking to focus more on its horse racing interests, as well as some of its other wagering as well, rather than its casino properties. But of those 9 properties, 2 of them are active racetracks, Presque Isle Downs, thoroughbred track in Pennsylvania, and then also Ocean Downs, a standardbred track in Maryland. Among those also is Calder Casino. Of course, everyone knows to be the former Calder racetrack as well. So some big news there for Churchill Downs as they are sort of reevaluating other interests in 2026. This comes after a successful year that Bill Carstanjen said that they had, nearly 100, rather nearly $1 billion in net revenue from 2025. And he just said that, the stock market, though, those share prices have been down, and that is leading to this kind of redirection after analyzing some of those different analytics there. Also, some news out of Kentucky. Kentucky Downs is raising its minimum win place in show wagering bets to $5 each. Currently, the minimum is $2, or some tracks might even have $1. $2 is the pretty typical bet for win place and show wagering across the country, and really has been for 100 years since the Prohibition. There might have been higher prices before the Prohibition, but after the Prohibition, a lot of things kind of leveled out. So more than 100 years. This is quite an interesting change from Kentucky Downs. I had a lot of fans commenting about it on social media. Some think it's not a big deal. It's going from $2 to $5, but for some casual bettors, the $2 might be what they're accustomed to. Something that they might just, be betting less than as a result of that. Maybe some shorter betting lines at Kentucky Downs. People have been chiming in about that as well, that some of those wagering windows have had long lines. But certainly interesting change there from Kentucky Downs. We'll see if any other tracks also follow suit, as tracks in recent years have been looking to change some things up. I also want to talk about some international headlines as well. A big week in England, Glorious Goodwood, that most famous festival taking place, and some really big top international horses headlining the festival. 3-year-olds were on full display in the Sussex Stakes, a Group 1 race. Bo Echo, of course, looking to stay undefeated. He did just that. He beat Stad in a really impressive fashion. He was boxed in on that mile race. At the top of the stretch, he was stuck in traffic. Had to go all the way to the outside. And his young rider, Billy Loughnane, just got him into gear and hit the wire in perfect timing to beat Stad, who's a Breeders' Cup winner. Did that as a juvenile. And those two have now clashed 3 times. And Bo Echo has come out on top in all 3. So he's certainly stamped himself as the best 3-year-old in Europe. And also at Goodwood the day prior in the Goodwood Cup, a long distance test for runners featured a rematch of the Ascot Gold Cup between Scandinavia and Trawlerman. Trawlerman's the older and more experienced horse, but Scandinavia's up and coming and just coming off of that Ascot Gold Cup win. And down the stretch, Trawlerman was hampered by Amalak, who lost his jockey at the start of the race. So Amalak, the loose horse, got into Trawlerman's way. Obviously, Scandinavia was looking to pass Trawlerman kind of as that all unfolded. He was moving up alongside him. So the outcome of the race, yeah, I know in the race call, the announcer made reference to, that kind of cost Trawlerman of all chances there, but Scandinavia was coming with a quick run too. So the best horse might have won the race anyways, but it would have just been a more interesting race had Trawlerman not been affected by that loose horse. But hopefully they'll rematch again. Be nice to see them take on each other once again down the road, and always exciting to see Trawlerman run. He's an older horse now, 7 years old. And of course, he's got his famous goggles on for his eye condition, and just a real fan favorite too. So both of them, it would be nice to see him go at it once again. Also, this past weekend, the King George, always a really major kind of midsummer race at Ascot, featuring a real headline of international stars. Even the top 1-2 finishers of the Japan Cup, Calandigan, the European horse, and Masquerade Ball coming over from Japan were in the race. Benvenuto Cellini, a top 3-year-old in England and Ireland, winning the Irish Derby. And then the mare Kalpana, looking to do her best running, and Kalpana upset them all. She took the lead in the stretch. Calandigan came with his late charge as he always does, running after. He just couldn't get by though. And Kalpana won it over Calandigan. And then in third was Benvenuto Cellini, and Lambourne ran fourth for Aidan O'Brien as well. Backstage side in the Bing Crosby at Del Mar this past Saturday, some heartbreaking news. Listen Up Chance and Maximum Bourbon, they ran 1-2 in the Bing Crosby in a photo finish, but the real headline out of that race came on the home turn. Sprint race, Bob Baffert's runner, Cornucopian, a real famous 3-year-old from last year. He had an impressive debut, and he's won a couple of stakes since then. He was really making out to be a top sprinter this year. He had to win a stakes race at Churchill Downs. He suffered an injury on the turn. His left front leg severely injured, sesamoid, a severe fracture, according to his owner, Tom Ryan. They looked at their options kind of through the night, overnight, getting different opinions from veterinarians. And Tom Ryan wrote on social media that the best option for Cornucopian was to euthanize him. So really a devastating loss, especially such a rising star that we hadn't probably seen his best, could have done even more, and such a high profile race too as well. Certainly any loss is a tough one. This one, though, is certainly wide felt across the industry. Also, some grade one action from this past Saturday at Saratoga. There was the coaching club American Oaks. Of course, a big matchup between 3-year-old fillies, and maybe to dispute who is the best 3-year-old filly in the country. You had Counting Stars in there, and also Always a Runner. These two have already ran against each other twice. Always a Runner won the Kentucky Oaks. Counting Stars turned the tables on her in the Acorn on Belmont Stakes weekend, and that's just how they turned out into the stretch. Counting Stars pulled away once again. Now she's 2 for 2 this year at Saratoga. Always a Runner was second. And a long shot Measure ended up third. And then Zany, one of Todd Pletcher's, his best 3-year-old filly. She could only manage fourth. Maybe expectations have been higher this year for Zany. We'll see if she's able to break through and get a grade one win later on in the summer or fall. The prior weekend at Saratoga, the Diana Stakes, the grade one race on the turf. And Chad Brown is always tough in this one. He was looking for his 11th win in the Diana. Really impressive record there. He had multiple runners in the race, and sure enough, all of his runners dominated. Past the wire, it was Kathy and Marissa who won it. Suggested was second. Portfolio Duration was third. Chad Brown's 11th win in the Diana Stakes. Back over to the West Coast again from 2 weekends ago. Big race then, opening weekend for Del Mar. The biggest race then is the San Diego Handicap, and that featured Journalism, such a fan favorite. Now he's in his 4-year-old season. Still was looking for his first win though this year. He's danced in some big dances, and he was the favorite. Broke super poorly. He was in last and gave the field several lengths, and he ended up coming from last around the turn, made his way through horses, and still had to pick up a couple lengths down the stretch. He ended up pulling clear and winning the San Diego Handicap Grade 2 race. But then it was found after the race, actually several days after the race, he was injured. I believe he suffered an injury at the start of the race and didn't disclose what that particular injury was, but they said that it was in his best interest to retire him. And so Journalism has been retired to stand at stud at Coolmore, one of his part owners. And so he'll be standing at stud end to a real promising career. Obviously, he already accomplished so much, though, too, winning the Haskell and the Preakness in such incredible fashion, in addition to his St. Anita Derby win. So a multiple grade one winner. I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest for him at stud, but disappointing what the rest of the year could have held for him. Obviously, he didn't always win. Sovereignty was certainly his big rival. White Barrio also would beat him too, but Journalism, certainly one of the top older horses, and it would be interesting to see if he would stick, running mile and a quarter races throughout the rest of the year, and maybe Pacific Classic in Breeders' Cup Classic, or if he would shorten down to a mile. Certainly some questions that will go unanswered as far as Journalism's on-track career. We'll see what he does in the breeding show. Also, talking about the older horses, Magnitude will also be heading to stand at stud at Coolmore, but it's unclear when. It'll be upon the conclusion of his racing career. They didn't give a date, though, if that will be 2027, 2028. Unclear what his first season at stud will be for Magnitude, but of course, this year has been a real breakout year for him. First winning the Dubai World Cup, following that up with a win in the Stephen Foster Stakes, stamping himself probably as the best horse of the older horses here, at least most consistent. He's beaten White Barrio, he's beaten Sovereignty, and Baeza as well. So Magnitude has been impressive this year, and I would imagine the favorite for the Breeders' Cup Classic several months out now. Now to some disappointing news in Chicago. Hawthorne Racecourse, the country's oldest family-owned racetrack and sporting venue, and Illinois' oldest sporting venue, 130 plus years. Hawthorne Racetrack is going to be sold for $90 million to be redeveloped, most likely redeveloped. Alamac 2023 is the name of the company that bought the track at a bankruptcy auction. They were the only bidder on the track, despite the Carey family saying that there were other bidders waiting in the wings, even ones who wanted to continue it as a racetrack for maybe upwards of $115 million. Those bidders did not come forward. That didn't materialize. So Alamac 2023 looks to be the next owner of Hawthorne Racecourse in Stickney and Cicero on the border of those two suburbs on the southwest side of Chicago. And LMAC 2023, despite the name, was created this year in 2026. That's one of the few details known about this company and what their plans are. But it certainly sounds like their plans are not to keep it as a racetrack. And if that's the case, Chicago has just lost its final horse racing track. Something that's quite hard to imagine because Chicago was such a big place for horse racing in the 1920s and 30s and 40s. Racing expanded each year, both thoroughbred and harness racing in Chicago. And Hawthorne was that last track remaining. I think probably not a lot of people would have imagined that. Arlington Park was probably Chicago's most beautiful track of all time, especially when it was rebuilt back in the 80s. And certainly a successful track hosting the Arlington Million and a lot of fantastic international runners. Now Hawthorne is going through this closure. They've stopped racing, and all the horsemen and women on the backstretch have until the end of August to vacate the property. And some horses are still training there. They've created sort of a deal with the Almac 2023 to allow horses to continue to train there, but horsemen and women are making those plans to move on to other tracks. We'll have another episode coming out soon with Chris Block, president of the Illinois Thoroughbred Horsemen's Association. He's talked about how the trainers have to figure out where to go next. They have options in the Midwest, but nothing really quite as year-round as what Hawthorne was. But this time being the summertime, you got Canterbury Park up in Minnesota, Prairie Meadows in Iowa, and Horseshoe Indianapolis out in Shelbyville, Indiana, Kentucky as well. So there are options. Then, of course, Fairmount Park in St. Louis as well is Illinois' last remaining track. Those tracks are all open now. It'll be interesting to see what happens come wintertime and going forward in the future. But more to come, certainly on that headline in the next episode of the Paddock Press Report. I mentioned Arlington Park as well. That closed 5 years ago, but the Arlington Million continues to be run, and it will be run this upcoming weekend, as it has been since then, since 2022, at Colonial Downs, Churchill's track in Virginia. And really a fantastic lineup of runners. Of course, the Million is the only remaining Grade 1 race. The Beverly D Stakes is a Grade 2 now, along with the Secretariat Stakes. But they've attracted some top runners, including what may be America's top turf runner, Burnham Square. He's favored for the Arlington Million, a 1.25 mile race. There's also the Beverly D with Stellify. She's the favorite in that one. And then Alpyland. He's an up-and-coming 3-year-old. He is 4 for 6 his 3-year-old season. Won some pretty nice stakes as well. He's the favorite in the Secretariat Stakes. Over to the West Coast now for the other Grade 1 race this weekend is the Clement L. Hirsch Stakes. The defending champion here, Seismic Beauty, returns to defend her title. Last year, she won this race, went straight to the Breeders' Cup Distaff and disappointed back in the pack. 11th place finish, if I recall. So we'll see if the Bob Baffert trainee can turn that around. The second choice in here ships in for Brad Cox as Chaston. And then there's Majestic Oops, a local horse for Philip D'Amato. So we'll see who comes out best in the Clement L. Hirsch Stakes. Almost pretty large field sizes in there as well. So some other horses that could hit the board at a price. Certainly an interesting betting race there. And then lastly, back out to the East Coast, Grade 2 action in the Jim Dandy Stakes. That's the headliner at Saratoga this upcoming weekend. You've got a really fantastic matchup in there between Commandment and Renegade. Last out, they were seen running a second and third in the Belmont Stakes, also at Saratoga. So we'll see who comes back out on top of that. Commandment almost seemed like he was putting in a game challenge to Golden Tempo in the Belmont, but Golden Tempo powered clear and stamped himself as top 3-year-old. Maybe one of these two horses, though, will establish themselves as sort of the runner-up at this point for second best 3-year-old. And they also could go off, maybe as the second or third choice in the Travers Stakes in the month as well. It's a field of 5, short field of 5 once again, as it also was last year. Featuring Sovereignty, but there's a couple of other runners in there as well to look out for. Chip Honcho, of course, a strong effort from him in the Preakness Stakes, and then Silent Tactic, who's on the Arkansas Derby Trail, and one of the contenders, possible long shot for the Kentucky Derby, ended up scratching with that hoof issue. He returns in the Jim Dandy as well. That is the top 4 contenders in that field of 5 for the Jim Dandy. Also, the Saratoga Special, a grade 3 stakes race featuring some nice 2-year-olds there. Booked is the favorite as well. He's a Steve Asmussen runner, and we'll see how he does there at Saratoga. Big weekend as always, and the summer months really are some of the most exciting months, uh, coast to coast, with Del Mar and Saratoga having graded stakes almost every day there meets. So a lot to look forward to. But we'll see you at the races. Appreciate you taking the time to join us for this episode of the Paddock Press Report. Let me know what you think about this new format of less replays and more just cutting right to the facts in the statistics and some of those headlines too. We like to dive into those headlines and keep you updated on all the things going on across the industry, from the business side to the breeding side and to the racetrack side. Always appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining. We'll have a new episode in just a few days. Appreciate your time. Be sure to like, comment, hype, subscribe, whatever you feel like. I'm just grateful that you're watching. Thanks so much. I'm Timothy Leteau. Once again, this has been the Paddock Press Report.